line. This will be end the first round. I'll recognize Senator Sinema. This will end the first round. It'll come to a close. We'll take a break at that time and then come back for a second round. Senator Sinema, you're recognized for your questions.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Secretary Mayorkas, one of the significant challenges our nation and my state of Arizona face is the ongoing crisis at the southwest border. It remains critical for Congress and the administration to work together to secure the border, protect our communities, and ensure migrants are treated fairly and humanely. I appreciate the efforts you've taken to improve DHS operations at the border. As we both know, there's more work to do. We've seen close to 1.5 million encounters at the border this fiscal year, with over 270 of those happening in the Tucson and Yuma sectors. CPB officials in those sectors consistently talk about the importance of Title 42 authority in managing the situation at the border in those sectors. But recent court decisions could limit the use of Title 42 authority in the future, which would put more pressure on our border workforce and processing capacity. Additionally, with the severe challenges in the Del Rio sector, we learned last week that CBP will be transporting 400 migrants each week to Arizona for processing. So what steps does DHS need to take to improve processing capacity and capability at the southwest border to manage this ongoing crisis, including the situation we're seeing in Del Rio?
Thank you so much, Senator. So we've taken a number of steps, some of which I alluded to earlier in my response to Senator Hawley's question. We are moving individuals across the southwest border to facilitate the expulsions under the Center for Disease Control Title 42 authority. We are using expedited removal under Title 8 as an additional authority. We have begun prosecution of individuals who have prior removal orders and who are recidivists. We are sending flights, repatriation flights, into the interior of Mexico to make recidivism more difficult. We are employing quite a number of measures to increase the number of encounters and also to deter irregular migration, and we are seeing progress in that regard.
Now, following up specifically on Title 42, obviously court decisions will play a significant role in the future of Title 42, but this authority was always meant to be temporary and will end at some point. In June, as you know, I led a bipartisan letter that requested a detailed plan for the end of Title 42. I'm asking today if you'll work with my office to schedule an in-depth briefing for the committee on your plans to facilitate a smooth and orderly transition for the end of Title 42, when DHS will resume relying only on traditional statutory authorities.
We most certainly will do so, Senator.
Thank you. Now, as you're aware, transnational criminal organizations pose a significant threat to our national security by engaging in human trafficking, drug trafficking, and violence at our southwest border. They may also be capitalizing on the DHS resource strain that the migrant influx is causing. So what capabilities or technologies does DHS need additional investments in to expand your ability to counter TCO activity?
Thank you very much, Senator, for that question. I will say that we're already taking and have taken a number of steps to address the actions of TCOs. We are working increasingly in the task force model as a force multiplier. We are using technology, air assets, especially our force multipliers, and extremely effective tools. We can use more resources with respect to our air assets. And we have undertaken a number of law enforcement operations to address the activities of these transnational criminal organizations. Operation Sentinel, which addresses their logistical network here in the United States, is but one example.
Thank you. My next question is for Director Wray. The pseudonymity afforded to criminal organizations such as DarkSide that demands ransom payments in cryptocurrency provides significant challenges to federal law enforcement. How has the FBI changed its response capacity at its field offices to help families, small businesses, and managers of critical infrastructure respond to the rise in ransomware attacks?
So I appreciate the question. Certainly, ransomware attacks, as Secretary Mayorkas referred to earlier, have gone up, and the total volume of payments have gone up, both quite significantly. And it affects, as you say, Senator, not just large organizations, but also small ones. And what the FBI can do and is doing is we have cyber task forces in all 56 field offices, and each of them is designed in part to be able to engage quickly with victims, to be able to respond as quickly as possible to help them manage and disrupt and mitigate against the threat. We, on the virtual currency side, the cryptocurrency side, we have created subject matter teams, experts at headquarters that both train, so create more of a force multiplier effect in all the field offices, but also support investigations because, as you say, following the money in that space is exceptionally challenging and requires new and more creative, innovative tactics, much as we did, for example, in the Colonial Pipeline case, where we were able to not only follow but seize a big chunk of the ransom that was being paid in cryptocurrency before it got to the bad actors. And we want to do more of that, but that case illustrates in particular the importance of the private sector, big or small, engaging with the FBI as quickly as possible. Speed really matters in these instances, and when they do engage that quickly, there's all kinds of things that we can potentially do to follow the money.
Thank you, Director. Back to Secretary Mayorkas. The world has changed a great deal since DHS was established in the aftermath of the 9/11 attacks. And today, the department has a responsibility for a wide swath of disparate missions. You handle counterterrorism, border security, transportation security, disaster response, as well as cybersecurity and critical infrastructure protection. So as new threats confront our country, how is DHS assessing and adjusting its structure to respond to the changing threat landscape? And what changes do you feel are needed in the short term?
One of the things, Senator, that we are focused on is making sure that our more than 22 offices and agencies are working cohesively together to really bring the full force of the department to bear on any one particular threat stream. I think we've made tremendous advances in that regard. Fundamentally, I think our greatest tool in combating the threats of whatever nature is really the more than 250,000 men and women who comprise our department. They're extraordinary, not only in meeting the threat that we confront today, but in their readiness to meet the threat that looms.
Thank you, Secretary. Mr. Chair, I know that my time has expired, but I want to note that as we were having our first hearing after the 20th anniversary of the 9/11 attacks, I want to take a moment just to express my thanks to all the people who work every day to keep our country safe. And as our threats continue to evolve, our government must continue to adapt and make changes based on the lessons we've learned since September 11th. And I'm grateful for the men and women across our country who are doing just that. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Senator Sinema. Well, I know our witnesses, we were thanking you for these answers to all these questions, but it's time for a little bit of a break for you. We have a second round. That concludes the first round. Not every senator is coming